Welcome to Work Liberated. This is the podcast you want to listen to if the workplace being the kind of place people want to be part of is important to you. If you know something in the world of work is off and you want to improve it. If you're leading people through change and you know that the environment at work is just as important as the work you're doing. If being a leader who inspires people is important to you, you will want to listen or watch Work Liberated. Today, I have a guest with me, Jeff Willmore. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with the Autonomy Course.
That is a big question.
I know.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. And my life is so full of significance. There's so much to tell. Oh, well, I really accidentally ended up with a real commitment to empower people and free up people in their professional life and their business so they could do two things. One is they could fulfill on the vision they had for their business or their career. And at the same time, they could do that without sacrificing their life to do it, which is kind of what we expect. In fact, we even highly admire that. You know, when we hear of someone who sacrificed everything to make X business happen, it evokes admiration often. So I somehow got committed to that through my own life experience and have been devoted to that. And that's how the Autonomy Course came to be.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a lot today about the Autonomy Course, but we're also going to talk about how Jeff and I know each other. And so we were talking earlier, and I think it's been over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I met Jeff because we were both program leaders in the same organization. He was a senior program leader, and I think I was a junior program leader. And
at that time,
both of us had a commitment to, my words, not his, you could say for yourself, but really to give people access to freedom, power, and full self-expression. I'll never forget those three.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time I was doing recruiting and I was so inspired by the avocation of helping people or empowering people to gain that freedom that I decided I wanted to do it as a career. And that's when I started Keen Alignment. And for you, Jeff, you've been facilitating transformational programs for how long and how many thousands of lives have you empowered?
Well, it's over 30 years now. It's like, wow, it goes by in a flash. So it's over 30 years, and it's probably 300,000 to 400,000, somewhere in there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And what I know at the time that you were in that field, still in the field, but doing that work, you did an awful lot of travel or a lot of travel. And what was your favorite part of working with people leading the Landmark Forum?
Oh, first of all, I found people just incredibly interesting. And I don't think I ever had that before, but somewhere in creating that career for myself, I ended up really falling in love with how different and strange and unique people are. And in fact, I remember someone in a forum saying to me afterwards, you know, you really do your job well because you actually make it appear like you're interested in the stories we tell. And I'm sure you've heard it all before. And I said, well, yeah, in a sense, you know, once you've been in front of enough people, it's like you've heard this before, but it wasn't like that for me. I actually was interested. And without question, the part that made it all worthwhile is when you saw someone in front of your eyes be freed from the constraints of their past, whatever that was, whatever that happened to be. That was the whole point. To see someone get free of the burden of my dad didn't love my dad was never there for me and he didn't love me, or to see someone be freed from the self-assessment that I'm just not that smart and therefore I have to compensate with hard work, and all the different versions of that, many of which we don't even know that we have.
Yeah.
To see people get free from that, that is the whole point, huh?
Yeah. So when I did my very first, I would say my virgin voyage of a transformational program, a gentleman by the name of Bruce Hodes came into my business and said, Margot, which was I was going by back then. He said, which one of your parents was the alcoholic? I said, why would you say that? He said, because you're running an extremely codependent company. And it's, in my opinion and my view, it's a sign that somewhere along the line you learned that that's the way you needed to caretake everybody. And he nailed it. My father was the alcoholic. He nailed it so clearly. He said, I want you to do this program. It's only 3 days in an evening or something like that. But whatever you do, don't volunteer. Turns up, I not only did the program, I volunteered, and he's to this day still volunteering.
Yeah.
But what I saw in that for myself is that I had related to work like I had to be successful and that it was going to be hard. Mm-hmm. And up until that point, I think it was I want to say it was like 1996, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Up until that point, my life was a money generation machine. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think anything was wrong with it. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even know that I was doing that until I sat in a room and heard people talk about how they worked and how there was so much more freedom and joy. And I loved what I was doing, but I was working too hard. Fast forward now, all the way, 30 years later, and I'm still working hard in a completely different business. That business was a manufactured stress crisis waiting to happen. It was a staffing firm. So it's like an emergency room. They call you up and they say, we need 12 people or we need 14 people. And if you don't get those people in a matter of, I think we had a 20-minute fill, like an industry standard, you have to fill the job in 20 minutes.
Crazy.
So it was the most, 2008, I sold that business. It was the most freeing experience of my life. And even though it generated a lot of revenue, I was super happy to move on. And then I created Keen Alignment. And, I took a lot of time off in between, created content, did some coaching of people. But now we fast forward to 2022, and I'm working a lot less hard. But what I see is everyone around me is working hard. Yeah. All my clients are working really hard. It is a badge of courage to give up time with the growing children to be with the job. It's like an honor or something. And why I was attracted to the Autonomy Course is I'm 57 years old. I know I have a lot to give, and my clients would say I have a lot to give. And I don't want to go into my retirement, like I'm not going to retire, but I don't want to go into my golden years, even though I don't feel like I'm in my golden years, struggling to have a business that works. I want a business that works without me calling all the shots. I want a business that people want to be a part of, like a community, but that people join as community members, not employees. Does that make sense?
It does.
So tell me how the Autonomy Course is going to help me, and in that way, how it's going to help anybody else who's interested in autonomy in their career.
Yeah. Well, this thing of hard work is the answer. While you experience it, all of us have experienced that or do experience that personally. As I like to say it, it's not personal. It's a inherited tradition. It's a inherited conversation that you step into the workforce and you've stepped into. That is the ultimate answer. Whether you even ever talk about it or say it, although we do plenty, you need to work harder. You need to put in more effort. It's what's sold. It's what's promoted as how I got to where I am, how I achieved what I achieved. If you listen to, as people tell those stories about themselves, be it Lady Gaga winning the Emmy, talked about how hard she worked.
Yeah.
And on and on and on. And
Kim Kardashian talked about how hard she worked too.
Yeah. So now that's a necessary skill. There are many people who've never developed their muscle to work hard, and it costs them at their ability to fulfill on their commitments, goals, dreams, all that in life. It will cost them because there are times you need to be able to deliver. And the only thing, and it's going to take hard work. However, it's something I call the labor tradition, which is a tradition of working that was 70, 80 years long, and it was completely appropriate in the old era of work, and it really came into being with labor unions, and you'd get paid by the hour, and you'd have a daily rate. So the more hours I put in, the more money I'd make. If you worked overtime, you got paid extra. All that. And no one comes up with that on their own now. But you step into business, into the world of business, you inherit that conversation. And it's a killer. I mean, it's all these people who study people at the end of their life, and they list out what are the top regrets of people at the end of their life. They're all the same. No, it's the first one is, I wish I'd lived life more true to myself. And the second one is, I wish I hadn't worked so much. So, and that conundrum that you were just speaking about, Maji, is stuck with me in my own work experience of owning a business and being moderately successful at owning a business, and realizing I was only successful because I worked my ass off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And wondering, how do you do it otherwise? And I didn't have some immediate answer, but that's what I got committed to, that eventually became the Autonomy Course, was a way for committed, ambitious professionals and business owners to come together and find a way to create a new view of the marketplace, a new view of themselves in it, a new view of business as a whole, so they could redesign and reinvent their business or their career, so that hard work wasn't the answer. I mean, everyone, probably virtually everyone you work with and everyone I work with, they've already got hard work down.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't make it to where people make it to without that ability to press through and do the all-nighters at college and so on. But I don't want to end up at the end with the regrets.
Yeah.
I was just visiting my dad recently, who's 89 this year, coming up next month. And every time I visit him now, he says, don't wait too long like I did. I mean, my dad was the epitome of hard work, and he's got success and money to show for it. But his biggest regret is you know, I went to Machu Picchu when I was 80. I should have gone when I was 50, you know? So how do I design a business that fulfills my vision for my life? Not I'm living out this old inherited labor tradition. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, we talk about the Great Resignation, or we don't talk about it, but it's out there, and all these people leaving their job in pursuit of something other than their job, but without a vision, without a calling, without a purpose, without a goal. Just, they're trading one shit show for the next shit show. And it's really, in recruiting, if there's anything I learned in those 25 years of recruiting, it's the same job over and over again, and the same experience, just different faces.
Yeah.
And if you have a person who repetitively has personality conflicts at every job, pretty soon you got to look at the person and say, hey, maybe I got to do some work inside. Yeah. Same thing with the one who trades time. So it doesn't matter what they're producing, but as long as they put the time in, they feel valor. But the company actually really wants the result. They actually don't want the time. And so I think there's a missing translation, even among the CEOs and the people like that work in the organization. Because if you get alone with a president, CEO, they really, all they want is the results.
Right.
They would rather have it take half the time, half the effort, leverage technology, leverage teamwork, but the translation downstream doesn't make it, because people really, they'll come to their performance review with how hard they worked and how much effort they put in, and then they're confused when they're not appreciated for it.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you change an entire paradigm of the world of work? Yes.
And you people leaving, you brought up the Great Resignation. I can't remember the game show where the game show host would say, show them what they've won, and pull the curtain back, right? So if you think you're going to work less owning your own business, now that doesn't mean don't do it, but you're exactly right that I most often will take myself from here to there. What's that old, I think it's I can't remember where it came from, is the problem with moving is you have to take yourself with you, So yeah, that's I mean, what you're asking is just dead on. And the place, we start two places, and the work Richard and I do in the Autonomy Course. First, we start with, if you were going to align your life, which includes your business, your work, if you're going to align it to something, what would you align it to? And it's pretty surprising, given, we engage with pretty already successful, intelligent, committed people. We don't have an answer to that. I mean, I can remember asking a $1 billion hedge fund founder and owner, why are you doing a hedge fund? And it was silent. And then finally he said, I don't know. I mean, I knew why I was doing it in grad school when I came up with this, what I thought was a anomaly and a brilliant idea. And so I started this hedge fund from nothing, but I have no idea why I'm doing it now, 20 years later. So we start with, if you're going to align your life and your business and your work and your profession to something, what would it be? And the answer we propose, it would have to be something that's profoundly inspiring. I mean, wouldn't it? It would. Why would you align your life to something that's boring or something that doesn't inspire you? So we start there, and then parallel to it, the other place we start with is, okay, before you can actually design something new or reinvent your business or career, you first have to get honest about what it is now. And we call that distinction, the beginning of it is getting aware of what we call it is the force field of business. That the moment you launch a business, the moment you go to work for a company or in an industry, you're in the force field, whether you like it or not. There's no escaping it. And there's even force fields within force fields of particular industries. I was having this conversation recently with two directors of medicine at a couple of the largest university healthcare systems in the country, who were both MDs. And as they started to get honest about the force field that comprises healthcare, they were just in tears. Because in their own way, what they ended up saying, the only way we've made it 20 years in this industry is we've had to disconnect ourselves from what we're really doing. And if we can experience one victory a day, it keeps me going. But when what we do for the HMOs and for the insurance companies and mandatory time limits with their patients, it was like, my God, how are we still doing this? No wonder we experience burnout. And so that's the beginning of the possibility of choice and invention. Is I've got to realize I'm in a force field to see the possibility of something else. Otherwise, whatever I attempt to create or imagine is just on top of it. Or better said, it's more of it. It's just an adaptation. Oh, I know. Oh, because my people are so busy, I know what we'll do. We'll put a cafeteria in. But it's just an adaptation to that we're too busy, right? Which is part of the force field. So we start on those two tracks where someone can authentically end up reinventing and redesigning why they're doing what they're doing and the way they organize and work to go about fulfilling on it. Enough of an answer for now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like a typical morning, a Monday for me. All the different, the clients are not, I honestly think the customers are never the problem, but they're part of the force field. Yeah. But it's what I was surprised about the first time I opened a business and I didn't know is that the majority of what I made was going to go to pay people to help me be in business.
Yeah.
Like no one tells you that.
Yeah, right.
No one tells you that. Working for someone else, I was straight commission. If I made $100, I kept 50. Working for myself, if I made $100, it cost me $80 to make the $100.
Right.
And I think people do not understand that, even if they're going to 1099 situation.
Right.
And So that the running of the business, the operating of the business, the people side of the business, the day-to-day, I think it's overwhelming for many, 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 many business owners, and even the executives that I work with. It's that, like, if you put them with the clients, they're happy.
Yeah.
If you have them solving an infrastructure problem,
Yeah.
or a challenge among people, then it just goes haywire. So what do you recommend for people that are really committed to liberating their work experience?
Yeah.
Whether they're an employee or whether they're a business owner or starting their own, what do you recommend people do to stay true to their own truth about why they're there and what they want to do?
Yeah. Boy, that's such a powerful insight. And it's so true that not always, but in many, many cases, a professional authentically loves what they do. Like the massage therapist loves doing massage, or the software designer loves coding, or whatever the case is. But the moment you put that into a business where you've got to deal with all those things you were mentioning, as well as the making money part and the profit part, and it's all of a sudden the likelihood that what I love to do is now going to get polluted or prostituted by this whole making money thing, and what I have to do to, I've got to market, but I don't like marketing, but I have to do it. Or I need to promote. I don't like how we promote in this industry, but that's just how we do it in this industry. So I've got to grit my teeth and, all those things we put up with and tolerate that we're not proud of, or that we don't love doing. So I don't have an answer to your question. Like, what would I recommend? Because it suggests that there's an answer for someone. And what we found is the only answer has to be invented. And it takes what I call a triumph of imagination. And the answer they invent will be unique to them, their business, and their industry. And it won't be something that they mimicked or copied off someone else, which I think the world of business and the force field of business is just notorious for that.
Yeah.
Is people mimic and copy. And the more we do that, and it often takes the form of best practices. And, I have something I repeat often is best practices guarantees mediocrity. And it's very different than we've invented our own standard for our work and our company. And it's a stand we take in the marketplace. We don't do it because it's a best practice. We do it because that's us. And that's why we do this. And that's why we're doing it this way. And that, that's that answer. I know people may not like it, but because it takes some time. You rarely invent something in a single moment of inspiration. I mean, every now and then you get some of those, but someone I know well, who's happened to have led the forum for a while back, who's a multi-Grammy Award winner. I remember him talking to me about the process of creating these amazing songs he does. And sometimes it's years. So if I'm actually going to invent a business that's unique to my vision and allows me to live true to what I've said is most important about my life, and at the same time generates commercial success, that's a triumph of imagination. That's a process of design and inventing. But you can do it. I mean, it's not that it's not possible. It may not be easy, and that's a different kind of hard work. That's the work an artist does when they're creating.
If your own evolution as a leader is important to you, you want to check out Evolve the Leader Within. Just scroll down, click the link, and learn more of how you can up-level your leadership and cultivate your highest and best self at work and in every other area of life. Okay, I'm excited about what I get to create. So one of the assignments that you gave us before the class started was to answer for ourselves, and I'll probably get it wrong, but how do we define career? Something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember when the assignment came, I said, oh, for goodness sakes, I've gotten people jobs my whole life. I know what a career is. But I got over myself because I wanted to do the homework or the prep work.
Yeah.
And so I sat with that, and it got really confronting. Because what I would describe as my career doesn't fit in with any stereotypes of what a career is. I think you think career and you get your degree and then you go here and then maybe if you're lucky, you go here and then you go here and you go here and you go here. And then maybe if you're lucky, you got a gold watch. Well, that evaporated 25 years ago. So now in Silicon Valley, sort of looks like this: bing, 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 bing. And I forget the Maynard someone, the guy who created PayPal, wrote a book called Be the CEO of Your Own Life. And I think, as part of a pitch for PayPal and, selling stuff online. But it was really also about nobody's coming.
Right.
No one is taking care of your career but you.
Yeah.
So for all of those people watching that are not business owners, that are either in a job or thinking about a job or wishing they had more fulfillment in their work life, what would be something they could do, like a takeaway from watching this, listening to this, that they could do to feel a little more aligned or a little more fulfilled with what they're either doing for a career or what they want to do?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's before I wrote that paper on what is a career, I believe the title is what is it a career? And then parenthetically, looking from an ontological and phenomenological perspective. So for those of you listening or watching, very simply, it's not what is a career as a definition. It's what is a career in a way that creates and says a significant dimension of who you are, of what your life's about. Because a committed professional is going to spend around 50% of their life in their profession working. And what I found is how most people answer the question, what is a career, is with the description of a long-term job.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm an accountant. And so now everyone knows what you do, and okay, that's your career. But if you just notice what that does to any of us when we give any of those descriptions, or we have in our past, like I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm in sales. Virtually, I can't say every, because, but close to every time you say that, it's deadening. You're not inspired. You're not lit up. It doesn't create you. It doesn't, this is what my life's about. So in answer to your question, the first place someone could start, besides come spend a year with me, right, is if you didn't describe your career with a inherited label, and instead you were actually going to state your career as a declaration of why you're there and why you're doing it and what you do, and the saying of it lit you up, what would you say? So if instead of my career is I'm a teacher, if it was my career is as I work with students so they can be their best selves in their world. Now, I just made that up, but that's got more juice for me than
I'm a teacher.
I am a teacher, you know, which I know is easy shorthand and no one has to think when we say things like that, which is part of the point of it. No one has to think. I don't have to think. You don't have to think.
Well, let's take it even one more step. So what I am a teacher, the first thing I think of when I meet somebody and they say I'm a teacher is grading papers.
Yep.
Summers off.
Yep.
Totally frustrated.
Yep.
Rarely do I meet somebody who seems inspired by being a teacher. And then they make movies about those people.
Yeah.
So I think it could be for anything, right? Anything you do. It's either coming from a place of self-actualization, like I am fulfilled, this is fulfilling me, or it's something I have to do.
Yeah.
To get a paycheck.
Yeah. Well, almost for sure, just using teaching as an example, I didn't go into that, or someone didn't go into that because of the incredible pay.
Right.
Or something. And yet, in the description of myself as a teacher, I end up disconnected from why I went into it in the first place.
Yeah.
And the business of teaching has me being farther and farther from it, more and more divorced from it. So finding a way to speak my career as a possibility and in a way that connects me to my heart and my soul and why I'm doing this each morning. Why am I grading these papers? Oh, because I'm empowering these students to live as their highest and best self. Now, I'm still grading the papers.
Yeah.
But I've got a different experience of grading them then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could even see that for my company's vision is to forever liberate the human spirit at work, and mine is people are liberated.
Yeah.
And when I notice when I get caught up in like a marketing conversation, which is talk about the force field.
Yeah.
And the money and the effort and the competing with everyone else's SEO words and has nothing to do with liberation. It has to do with how do we tell people who we are and how do we have them find us? And I think what I'm getting out of this conversation is before I ever get on the phone with a marketing person, if I ever get on the phone again, I need to be in that space of liberating the human spirit. And if whoever I want to partner with isn't aligned, then that's the answer of they're not my person.
Yeah.
Whether it's a vendor or an employee.
Yeah.
Like if they're just looking for a place to get a paycheck, there's plenty of those out there.
Right.
There's plenty of people who will give you a check for 10 grand and say, make me a website that doesn't work.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. And I would add to it for you just to consider, I don't do marketing. I do something else.
That would save us a shit ton of money.
Well, no, you may still spend money. It's just not on marketing. We do connecting.
Yeah.
And in the process of connecting, we liberate. It's not we liberate when you hire us. That's all we do is liberate. So just reading our message is we're committed, it's going to liberate you in some way. And so finding a way to relanguage that. And, sometimes you just have to find new words, because just the word marketing is not always, but most often deadening. It doesn't connect you to what you do so well and why you do it. And then, and this is a great example, as brilliant as some of those digital marketing companies, whatever it may be, and they come to you and give you advice, they go next door and they give the same advice.
Yeah.
And so often, it doesn't mean you shouldn't take any of it, but so often what happens is the more you do that, the more it makes you like others.
Right.
And you're not. I mean, I can say this because I know you. I say you're not like others, and the work you do isn't like others. But if I go through that process, that piece of the force field called marketing, it makes me like others.
It is. It's like I hate to say Me Too because of the Me Too movement, but it is like, oh yeah, I do that too.
Yeah,
I do that too. Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so somebody is going to, or whoever is listening is going to look at what fulfills me and what is my life about. And then easier said than done, but they go out and they start looking for a job. The force field will have you apply to 150 jobs. Most of them you're not qualified for, but someone is saying, go apply, go apply, go apply. I would say, from my background in recruiting, figure out what your life is about and then personally call those places. Don't apply for a job.
Yeah.
Call those places, talk to them. It's how Vivian, who's you met earlier, it's how she got this job. Yeah. She reached out to me. There was no ad that I knew about. There might have been an ad.
Right.
She didn't go that way. And she said, I want to empower women. It was something about empowering women.
Yeah.
And I realized that that's what you guys do in this Ignite Power program. And whether I had a job or not, I was definitely going to talk to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we were kindred spirits. We were both interested in the same game of life.
Right.
And and I would recommend for people
Brilliant.
that is the way to find something that is in alignment with you versus just looking at the job and what it pays and that it's in a good location. Because if you're going to spend 50% of your waking hours at work, it might as well be something that you enjoy doing.
Yes. Yeah. Well said.
So
well said.
We are coming up on 45 minutes, right, Vivian?
Yes.
And so, Jeff, one more time, how do they find the Autonomy Course?
Someone can go to the website at autonomycourse.com, or if someone wants to email me, jeff@jeffwillmore.org. And it's Willmore with 2 L's. And I'd love to hear from anyone, just any questions or really anything. I love connecting with people, empowering people. So feel free to reach out.
And thank you for being with us here today. And I'll see you in August, if not sooner.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Work Liberated. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends, put a comment in the comment section, and like it. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.